about something really fascinating now, and that is, what body type are you? And I'm joined by Vicky Jane, and we're going to discuss this very important issue, and you'll be able to learn what body type you are and also the foods that are ideal for you. So hi Vicky.
Hey Sandra, how are you going?
Great. Yeah, and it's just fantastic to talk about this subject with you because you are so knowledgeable in body shaping and body types. And, you know, over the years, people have often said to me, it's not fair. My friend can eat whatever she likes and she doesn't put on weight and she's skinny. Yes. Whereas I just walk past the cake shop, look in the window and I put on weight and I have to be really careful. And then other people wonder why they only put on weight in certain areas of their body, below the waist, for example.
Yes.
So there's a lot of mysteries about our body shape. And you were saying to me before that a lot of skinny people look healthy, but they're really not. Can you explain that?
No, they're not. Unfortunately, once we sort of understand what, I suppose, our blueprint is of our body type, then we have a much clearer understanding of why we put the weight on where we do and why someone else may not put the weight on. But the crazy thing is, those supposed skinny ones that can eat whatever they like doesn't mean they're particularly healthy. Yes. Because you can be skinny, and just because you're eating a lot of maybe processed food or refined sugars and you think you can get away with it, it doesn't last long term and it will come unstuck because the body needs nutrition. Your cells need good nutrition. So I think we have to let go of that illusion that people can eat whatever they like. Yes. We have to get back to, we all need to eat well. But that will help reveal your natural body shape.
Yes. Well, that's true. And I think it's interesting to know that, you know, someone who is overweight, not hugely overweight, but say significantly overweight, can be healthier than someone who is too thin.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially as we get older, our body's designed to sort of have a little more fat. It helps with bone density. It helps, well, fill up the wrinkles as well.
That's good, yes.
Let's be honest.
Yes. That's right. Well, you know, a lot of people think that it's due to differences in their metabolic rate. You know, some people say, oh, well, I put on weight so easily. Another person will say, I really have to eat a lot to put on weight. And they think, oh, it's only due to differences in their metabolic rate. But it's really deeper than that. It's really genetic. And basically, there's 4 body shapes or 4 body types, and they're genetically determined. And each one has hormonal and metabolic characteristics that are unique to them. Now, sometimes people can be a combination of 2 body types, but that's only about 10% of people. Yes. And you'll often see someone who, wow, they're a really classic android, right? They're perfect, everything's android. And then you'll see a classic gynoid. Yes. And then you'll see someone who's a bit of a combination of those two, but they'll be predominantly android. That's right. Or predominantly gynoid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you get obviously your thyroid type, but it's interesting. What I generally ask, I suppose mainly women, is what was their shape when they're about 16 to 20? Because that's sort of when you're just starting to change. So if they've got a really defined waist, there's more chance that they're going to be a gynoid. And if they've always maybe liked athletic activities and they've never put weight on their legs, and there's more chance they're going to be an android. So, because as we get older, we tend to put more layers on, and as you say, it may start off as one shape, but then we, especially say for a gynoid, if they have had that estrogen dominance and like their sugar, that will put more stress on the liver, which will give them more android tendencies. Yes. But underneath all that, they really are a gynoid.
Yes,
but
that's right.
It can be a bit tricky.
You can't really change your body shape. You can streamline it, and sculpt it like you've done.
Yes.
But you can't really go from an android to a lymphatic because it's in your genes, it's in your DNA.
That's right.
As you said, your blueprint.
The blueprint, that's right.
That's what you got.
So it's making the most of whatever that shape you've got.
I reckon. Yes. And you know, one thing I've noticed over the years is some women become very obsessed about their body shape. And, you know, they'll become really honed in on one imperfection. And that makes them really depressed. It's a type of obsession and it leads to depression. And, you know, I've got one particular patient who I think is really interesting to share this. And she's a woman in her 40s, so quite mature, and she has had anorexia for 20 years or more. She's very, very thin. She spends about 3 or 4 hours a day working out. There's not one bit of fat on her.
Yes.
We do need some fat.
We do.
And she's painfully thin, and she hardly eats, tiny amounts. And this is a form of body distortion. So you look in the mirror, and what you see is not really what's there. You have a distorted body image. And then you become obsessed about it, and this is called dysmorphophobia. It can make you very, very unhappy. So if you have that problem, you should get counselling.
I think you brought up a good point too, because it's not only anorexia with food, it's exercise, excessive exercise.
Yes.
And women and men will believe they can eat whatever they like, and then they'll spend 2 hours in the gym, and that's not good balance, and it's hard on the body. And I think when you start to lose weight, you realise that exercise is a big component, and then if there's an injury, you become very fearful that you're going to put this weight back on, so psychologically it can affect you. So I think it's understanding that when you're eating good food, yes, exercise is important, but not obsessive exercise, and it's
That's right.
keeping that balance in your life is so important.
Well, let's talk about the android body type. So you can see this slide here. This shows you an android who is ideal weight. And then the next slide shows you an android that is overweight. And we'll refer to these slides as we go through. Now, the android is characterised by a strong skeletal frame, broad shoulders, fairly straight up and down, narrow hips, what we call the android pelvis, so rather boyish pelvis. They often have trouble in childbirth because of their narrow hips. They have a muscular neck, their chest and abdomen are aligned. They do not go in at the waist very much, hardly at all. They have muscular, powerful limbs, muscular buttocks. Their calves are muscular, and their ankles are strong but slim. They're not puffy. So you can see their bone structure. And they have a somewhat boyish or athletic figure, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
They often are very good at sports. They're very good at endurance sports, strong, powerful, and very good at long distance running or swimming. Now, android women have more muscle mass than the other body types, don't you agree?
They do.
And they build muscle very easily.
That's right.
So what type of exercise would you recommend for an android who's not wanting to build muscle too much, otherwise she may look a bit too masculine?
That is a fear for many women, because we mention strength training as a good lean muscle activator, I suppose, for want of a better word, as we get older. But for an android body type, especially when they already have had a muscular stature already, then it's easy to gain muscle quite quickly. So for the female android, I would encourage them, they can still use weights, but what we need to do is do more repetitions rather than a high weight. So if the classic scenario would be do say sets of 10 to 15 of using a certain weight, and you do that 3 times. Well, you might just do a weight. You want to get to a stage where maybe between the 10 and the 15, you're having difficulty repeating that. And you might actually want to make sure you're doing about 15 reps, whereas for another shape, which we'll go through in a minute, I will recommend maybe shorter reps. But the android, basically, I would do more endurance. So doing a cardiovascular with weights, doing longer repetitions with a lower weight. So they're still doing strength training to challenge the muscle, but more repetitions.
And jogging?
Jogging is good. Their legs are already going to be strong. I probably wouldn't encourage swimming, as it's a good support activity, but they've already got good upper body strength, and that's already strong. So to do more swimming, it may just amplify that imbalance. So we want to sort of actually maybe encourage things like dancing to actually get the fluidity a bit more feminine movement into the body, and definitely things like yoga, which is not using weights, but you're still using the strength of your body strength to actually encourage muscle rather than high weights.
Good. And in android women, if they put on weight, it's to the upper part of their body.
That's right.
They get the apple shape.
That's right.
So they'll put on weight around their neck, around their trunk, and they'll put on weight a lot in their abdominal wall and also inside their abdominal cavity, what we call visceral fat. And yet their hips and buttocks remain slim and muscular, narrow, and their legs remain muscular. They always have fabulous legs.
They do have great legs.
You notice
great
that?
legs, absolutely.
So even if they're a bit overweight, they'll camouflage well with wearing a baggy top.
Yes.
They won't wear a belt because, you know, the belt's going to show the top belly. And they'll have a short skirt or a skirt with a split.
That's right, or leggings and things like that. That's
legs,
right.
especially in high heels. Now, if they do put on weight in the legs, it's here, the inner thighs, right? Not on the outer. It's the inner. They make little fat pads there.
Yes.
Now, while we're talking about android women, we should also mention that the vast majority of men are android.
They are. That's right. That's right.
They should go back to Mars. You know that John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars?
Yeah, I always go
sold
back to
7 million copies.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We do have trouble communicating.
We do. Well, that's another topic altogether.
Yes, we won't go there.
No, we won't go there. No, we won't go there.
No.
But yes, men are predominantly android. So everything we're talking about for men is going to be relevant. But most men won't have a problem with gaining more muscle size.
No.
So, you know, doing the high strength training is probably a good thing for men, and the beauty about it, they will lose the weight quickly once they start using their body, doing the strength training. Men, because they do have a higher lean muscle ratio, they will lose the weight quicker by following this regime.
Quicker than the women.
Quicker than the women, unfortunately.
And the other difference between men and women who are android shaped is that if an overweight android man eats a lot of carbohydrate, that'll lower his testosterone.
Yes.
And that'll lower his sex drive.
Yes.
Whereas an android overweight woman, she's eating too much carbohydrate, that will increase her testosterone too much.
Yes.
So there's another big difference there.
That's right. So that's where you find actually, as the imbalance, say for an android woman, if she hasn't addressed that imbalance early enough, she might find she gets more male characteristics as she gets older, which is probably something they don't want to encourage, but there's a reason for it. I think that's the good thing. Once you understand, it's not inevitable that you can actually address it.
That's right. So it's not uncommon for an android woman who's overweight to be overproducing male hormones. And so there's a whole different group of male hormones. We call them androgens. So the fat in the upper part of the body will overproduce male hormones, and this can lead to acne, facial hair, loss of hair on top in the male pattern balding, and also easier weight gain. And the predominant gland in the android-shaped woman is the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands can produce male hormones as well. So the good news is by eating the right foods and doing the right exercise, you'll lose the weight in the upper part of the body and your excessive testosterone will come down. So your hair will thicken up and the facial hair and pimples will diminish. So your body shape and your hormones have a lot to do with your appearance and the types of foods you should eat. And that's something I think all women need to understand.
That's
they
right.
really do.
That's right. I think once you get that understanding, it's like, oh, it makes sense.
Yeah,
and
it does.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we can see a slide here of the adrenal glands, and you can see that they're very fatty little fleshy glands, and that android women will overproduce male hormones from these glands, particularly if they're eating too much carbohydrate and they're not exercising enough. We're going to talk about another body type now. That is the G body type, that stands for gynaeoid. It's a common body type in women. It's characterised by a shape of small to medium-sized shoulders, then curves right in at the waist, and below the waist flares out. So you have fairly wide hips, good childbearing hips if you like, and the weight will occur predominantly below the waist. So you'll have a build-up of fat, as you can see in the slide here. The fat will build up in the buttocks and the thighs, on the outside of the thighs, on the inside of the thighs. And the fat, if it continues to build up, may turn into cellulite, very tenacious or stubborn cellulite. So, Vicky, you are predominantly a gynaeoid, but you've managed to avoid, developing that shape, and you've streamlined your body into more of a thyroid type. And so just explain the estrogen dominance that goes with the gynaeoid body type.
It's interesting as I hear you talking about the cellulite. When I was younger, I had cellulite, and it's interesting, I don't think I've had it for the last maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Which, for a gynaeoid, it's a nice thing to actually have that realisation that I have changed that estrogen dominance. So for a gynaeoid, we will predominantly produce more estrogen dominant cells, and as you say, below the waist.
Yes.
And there's these little estrogen dominant cells have got a little hunger for sugary things, sweet things, and dairy. So you get this really catch-22 situation where they, before their periods especially, they'll get these hunger cravings and it'll be for the sweet stuff. Or if they have an argument with their partner or boyfriend, it's straight for the sweet stuff, and it'll just like go straight to the thighs. Now once they start, I should say, start exercising, and not just cardiovascularly, but actually strength training to build that lean muscle, you find the sugar cravings aren't quite so strong.
Yes.
Because then you start, you find that if you have more protein and fat, you're actually giving these cells the nutrients they need. So they don't have to get bigger to get your attention, basically. So by actually giving a gynaeoid good protein and good fat helps balance our blood sugar so we don't get the cravings. That stops the feeding of these estrogen dominant cells. And then by encouraging good strength training, or Pilates or yoga, but yes, for a gynaeoid, good strength training, it will actually help to turn around where that fat ratio is and get more balance to their body.
Right. Dominant gland in the gynaeoid woman is the ovary. The ovaries produce estrogen, and often they don't produce enough progesterone, and that will accentuate the weight around the buttocks and the hips and the thighs. They also produce estrogen from their fat cells. So fat in the lower part of our body produces estrone. It's a type of estrogen. And that will further perpetuate the weight gain in this area unless we do the right exercises and we get our liver working well to break down the excessive estrogen. That's important, the liver, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've had quite a few health issues because of an estrogen imbalance. And even though I've always been fairly healthy, it's understanding that and actually how the body can excrete the not so good estrogen, and having good strength training and good physical activity helps the body to balance more efficiently. And this will actually reverse this estrogen dominance. And that's a really key point, Sandra, is actually understanding it's not inevitable, all these hormonal imbalances that can happen by actually, as we talked about before, more greens, more good fats, protein, and exercising. You can actually wind back the clock and actually get that balance more efficiently.
That's right, and a good liver formula too, to help your liver break down the excessive estrogens. And, if you want to think about the gynaeoid shape, it's very feminine. I mean, think of people like Elizabeth Taylor. She was a gynaeoid, the late Elizabeth Taylor now. Beyonce,
yes.
Gorgeous.
J-Lo. I mean,
Yeah.
they're stunning women, and they've got really curvy figures. And they're also very fit and healthy, so they're not trying to change their shape. They're actually looking after their shape, and they're not afraid to show their butt.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Marilyn Monroe, she was a gorgeous gynaeoid. Beyonce, they are beautiful women, and they were the type of women that we use as the models, of yesterday.
Years gone
and
by.
Today they're using skinny thyroid types.
Yes, which we'll get to soon. You will have your turn, Sandra.
Yes, that's right. So, even when a gynaeoid puts on too much weight, it's all around the buttocks and the thighs, they still have nice, slim forearms and ankles and shins. Their limbs always look slim. except for the thighs where you get the lumpy cellulite. So we can avoid all that, girls, if we know our body shape. And one thing too I should mention, a good food for gynaeoids is flaxseed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you can grind the flax seeds in a coffee grinder or a food processor and keep it in the freezer and have 1 or 2 tablespoons a day, that will definitely help to offset the estrogen dominance. And the other thing too that frustrates a lot of gynaeoid women is if their butt continues to grow, they're getting a bigger and bigger and bigger butt. Not only does it grow sideways, it grows backwards and starts to droop down the back of their thighs. Now, what's the message there? I know that you haven't got any of that. So the butt exercise, how effective is that?
Well, we're going to show some exercises later. And there's your pelvic lift, but probably the most popular would be lunges and squats. Now, this can seem very fearful for a gynaeoid actually building muscle on the buttocks and thighs. But what will happen, you actually build that lean muscle, help reverse that estrogen dominance. And in the first few weeks, you might find the fat will still be there, but underneath the muscle's developing and it will just suddenly just shape. And you'll start fine-tuning your actual shape.
Now let's talk about the lymphatic body shape, or the L type. These women have challenges that can be overcome, for sure, but they have to understand their body shape, their body type, their metabolism to get good results. So the lymphatic body type has difficulty controlling their weight, and they've often been overweight since childhood. For several reasons. They have a slow metabolic rate compared to the other body types, sluggish metabolism, they retain fluid, so their lymphatic system is dysfunctional and inadequate, and that gives them a thick subcutaneous layer, so the layer of tissue between the muscle and the skin is thicker than it is in other body types, and often they don't like exercise.
No, they don't. And for all of the body types, probably lymphatic would be the one that would struggle the most, because as you say, they've always had that extra layer and their energy is a problem. So the thought of exercise is just like a foreign language to them, and it's very difficult. I suggest for lymphatic types is get a buddy, getting someone to sort of get you out of bed earlier. Probably good exercises, things like movement, like a Zumba is great, but it could be too extreme in those early days. But definitely getting the body moving out of your comfort zone. We've got to get the cells shaken up a little bit. A safe exercise would be obviously walking if they're not too overweight, and then a lot of lymphatics will actually go for swimming, and because they may have knee problems. Swimming's okay. However, a lymphatic body type, if we imagine the cell, we've got fluid in and out of the cell, there seems to be a lot more fluid outside the cell of a lymphatic body type. So to put the body then into a swimming pool, you're actually almost drowning the cell. So I don't encourage too much swimming. A couple of times a week is okay, but more activities like you're walking, dancing is fantastic, and then challenging it with Zumba classes and things to sort of get the heart rate up, and that will be very foreign. But if you can do that, you're getting yourself out of that comfort zone, giving it more chance to actually help you get a healthy balance for the body.
Right, because they have so much fluid. Sometimes you'll just press on the leg of a lymphatic woman and you'll get that pit. It's called pitting edema, and it stays there for a while. It's fluid, it's thick, subcutaneous tissue that shouldn't be there, and it makes them look more overweight than they are. So we want exercises that will return the lymphatic fluid to the heart, and then the excess fluid is excreted through the kidneys, rather than having to take more and more diuretic drugs, because over time the diuretic drugs become increasingly ineffective and will increase insulin resistance. So we want to use the natural diuretics for lymphatics.
And actually another exercise that's very good is rebounding. Rebounding is actually stimulating every single cell in the body, so it's stimulating the lymphatic system because the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. So this is why when we've got a lymphatic body that's not moving, everything's stagnating. So we've got to keep the body moving, and so things like rebounding are quite good.
Is that on a trampoline?
Yeah, they're little trampolines. You need to make sure you get a good one with proper springs, and there are different qualities, but just it doesn't have to be really
If you
high.
bounce up and then you come
We're
off.
not going to go too. No, we're not doing extreme rebounding.
Okay.
You don't even have to leave your feet too far off the ground. You can just so people who are overweight and even people who are older, like in their I'm not going to say ages, but you know, as we get older with balance, they can get a bar to hold on to.
Yeah.
So you get the little kiddies trampoline, but there's one suitable for adults, so you can have that support and just sort of moving your feet. Even
Exercise bike too?
Exercise bike, great. Yeah, that's all good. Anything to sort of get the lymphatic working, because we don't move the body, the lymphatics just won't work at all.
That's right. Yes. So, you know, to get rid of the fluid, as Vicky says, the specific exercises are natural diuretics. And things that will stimulate the metabolic rate, like spicy food, and things like chili, garlic is very good, turmeric or curry, and also having salads with lots of mint and parsley, ginger.
Ginger, excellent.
Ginger's a good diuretic, isn't it?
Yes. Especially in winter.
Yes.
When things are cold, you feel your fingers are cold, then ginger, chili.
Yes. So, you know, lymphatic women do very well when they're eating more spicy food and more natural herbs. Asian food is good, isn't it?
It is, and even a lymphatic body type may even suit having an occasional cup of coffee. Generally, we don't have too many stimulants, but that would be probably the lymphatics tend to go maybe for tea because they like that calming. But a cup of coffee for a lymphatic before they go to exercise will actually help it work.
Yeah, and Japanese food, because you've got the nori and the other types of seaweed, which are really good for fluid retention. They're really good for the thyroid gland, and that'll support a higher metabolic rate. So it's really important that they use those types of foods on a regular basis, I think. Yeah.
Because we all get very much in our comfort zone with foods, and we think we're doing things normal, but we're really in our comfort zone. So what I encourage people to do is actually just start writing down what they're eating, not as a diet, but just so they're aware of what you're eating, and then you can look back and go, oh, I really don't eat many spicy things, so I could maybe include a few of those in my diet, especially for lymphatic.
Makes a big difference. And you know, you can make a diuretic juice with ginger, celery, cucumber, parsley, and a bit of carrot. Or replace the carrot with lemon and orange. Yeah, because the vitamin C will tighten up the lymphatic vessels. It has an astringent effect.
Yes.
And the other trick is if you're making a citrus juice, with say some lemon, grapefruit and orange, include the white pith.
Yes, that's how all your collagen building, your asparagus and root and all your bioflavonoids, which in nature they actually hold the citrus fruit together. So what they do in our body actually hold our body together. So
that's going to help to strengthen their lymphatic system.
Absolutely.
And lymphatic massage is good.
Very good, yes.
I recommend that. But, you know, the best form of lymphatic massage is the exercises we've been talking about. Yeah. And very important to get enough vitamin C to keep your lymphatic system healthy. Now, looking at this slide of the lymphatic type, you'll see that they put on weight all over. So they put on weight in their face, their neck, their arms, their hands, their fingers, their toes, their feet, everywhere. It's a combination of fat cells and fluid. So they do have more fat cells than other body types. And that combined with the dysfunctional lymphatic system causes the fluid to be retained in and around the fat cells. This gives them the thicker subcutaneous layer. You can see it's all over them. So in a lymphatic body type, you won't really see the bone structure very clearly. So you won't see knobbly bones like you see in a thyroid type. You won't see the ankles clearly. So their ankles and their wrists will generally be thick and puffy. So that characterises a lymphatic. If you've got the thick, puffy ankles and thick, puffy wrists and you put on the weight all over, you're a lymphatic. The other thing about the lymphatic that's very important to know is their dominant gland is the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is like a little mushroom situated at the base of the brain, and it controls all the other glands in the body. The other thing, Vicky, that I know you're aware of is they crave dairy products.
They do. And it's, unfortunately, it's probably one of the hardest things for our lymphatic system to actually cope with, because dairy just clogs everything up. It's very mucus building, unfortunately. We're actually, as a species, we're not meant to drink dairy.
Yes.
And we're not meant to eat a lot of cheese, unless it's good quality cheese, but milk especially is very heavy for the lymphatic system, so it's quite even toxic for the lymphatic system.
Yes, so the lymphatic people do much better without dairy. Now we're going to discuss the opposite of the lymphatic body type.
And that would be?
Me, the thyroid body type. So if you look at this slide, you'll see the thyroid body type is characterised by very long arms and legs. And the bones are narrow or fine. So you'll often see ballerinas or models who are the thyroid body type. They want the long limbs. Now, the thyroid body type doesn't have as many fat cells. So they can eat a lot more food without putting on weight. They've got less fat cells than all the other body types. And the other thing about the thyroid body type is they have a high metabolic rate. So they definitely burn calories faster than the other body types. And the other thing is they don't build muscle easily, Vicky. I'm sure you know about that. Yeah.
And I suppose how this is really dominant is you can see a lot of young guys before they don't have they have a typical thyroid body, and they want to go to the gym and build up muscle, but they don't have a lot of flesh on them. Yes. And they're the ones that'll go for the protein powders, and they'll eat a lot of food. And the trouble with what a thyroid can get stuck in is they might go, because they can eat anything they like, they'll tend to go for a lot of processed foods, sugar foods, because they can get away with it. Now, when you're young, your body's very good at compensating, but long term, it's not good, and it really is a good idea to really come back to the basics, because if you give your body good protein and good fat, that will give your cells you've got, the best chance to gain weight. And so for a thyroid body type, they need to do strength training, and I really encourage them to do yoga and Pilates. And this can be almost painful for them, because they're very fast in their thinking, very fast in their movements. So to get them to slow down is like absolute torture. But it's very good. Sandra's laughing. It's very good for the nervous system, because that will actually help support them and take a little bit of stress off their adrenals as well.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's right, because thyroid body types tend to crave stimulants.
Yes.
So
yes.
when they're young, particularly, they'll often be smokers. They'll love a lot of sugar because it's a stimulant, caffeine,
yes.
the nicotine, the diet pills.
And even stronger drugs as well.
Yeah,
yes.
They really want that adrenaline hit. And so later on in life, they often get adrenal gland exhaustion.
Yes.
Yeah. So the stimulants are really bad for them. And they really need to have the regular protein and fat, good fat, to maintain their adrenal glands. Now, the dominant gland in the thyroid body type is, guess what?
Would it be the thyroid?
It's the thyroid gland, yes. And of course, the thyroid gland controls the metabolic rate.
That's right.
So thyroid body types have a high metabolic rate. They're not more prone to diseases of the thyroid gland. It doesn't mean that. Their dominant gland is called the thyroid gland because it controls the metabolic rate. And they often have a very healthy thyroid gland. If they do eventually put on weight, they have to really work at it, mind you.
Yes.
A lot of them have to make a career out of eating, or they have to exercise a lot.
Extremely.
Yeah, the weight building exercise. They will put the weight on in the lower abdomen and around the thighs and the buttocks, similar
yes.
to a gynaeoid would put on the weight.
Yes.
But they never get a really big bottom.
No.
Yeah. They have to really work hard at putting on the weight. And particularly with muscle, they don't have as many muscle cells.
No.
And that combined with the very long limbs, it's hard for them to build muscle. They can do it. Glutamine can help.
Yes, because that's very building from the inside, actually building that integrity of your digestive system, which means you're going to absorb your nutrients so much more efficiently. And also glutamine also helps with the brain function to actually organise your thoughts. So with the thyroid type, they're thinking very quickly as well. And also I've noticed a lot of thyroid types, especially women, what will happen is that because they could eat anything they like, they then get to perimenopause. And because the hormones start to change, we actually start regulating our hormones via our adrenal glands as well.
Yes.
And suddenly things are shifting, and what they used to be able to consume, they can't. And they're the classic ones will say, I used to be thin all my life, and then suddenly they got to perimenopause and they've put the weight on because they haven't been eating well and stressed out their adrenal glands. And so these little adrenal glands then have trouble actually helping to regulate the hormones at menopause as well.
That's right.
Yes.
And the thyroid women, if they're too thin, they'll be very estrogen deficient.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what age they are. And, you know, if they don't have enough body fat, they'll stop menstruating.
Yes.
They'll get what we call amenorrhea.
Yes.
And they just don't have enough body fat to be producing the estrogen to send the right signals to the pituitary gland to stimulate ovulation. So that constant low level of estrogen is very bad.
Yes.
It causes osteoporosis.
That's right.
At an early age. So it's very important that they don't get too thin and they do the exercise and they don't get low in vitamin D.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're very prone to osteoporosis, particularly if they have an early menopause. So we encourage, you know, that they do have plenty of calcium foods like tahini and seaweed and
strength
eggs.
training. Strength training is one of the best things. It's the old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that couldn't be more specific when it comes to our skeletal system. So if we don't actually use our physical body, then there's no reason for our body to actually build more bones and indeed good muscle tissue. So
That's right.
we need to use the body. So that's one of the best things. It's been proven. Those that have got risk of osteoporosis or even have got osteoporosis, by actually including strength training, they can actually reverse it.
Yes,
and especially
that's
get
true.
the vitamin
You
D
can.
checked.
Yeah, and so if you're a thyroid type, you may appear on the outside, you know, very energetic because you've got a lot of nervous energy and your adrenals are pumping adrenaline, but often you'll flag, you know, the energy bursts will be short-lived compared to the android type who's got a lot more endurance. Do you find that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even the lymphatic's got that long-term endurance as well. They may not be high speed, but they're the ones that keep going and going.
Yeah, that's right. I've noticed with the lymphatic types, you know, is they're not really into exercise.
No.
They're more arty.
And they're more incidental exercise as well. I'll get it while I'm walking to the shop. Or yes, they are.
They love cooking. They love being creative, painting, entertaining, craft things. You know, they exercise. You mean I have to do what?
I don't want to break out in a sweat.
Yeah, that's right. So the lymphatics, they don't want to exercise, but once you get them exercising, they love it, don't they?
That's right. Exactly.
Whereas the thyroid types, they love to exercise.
They do, but generally they'll go for cardiovascular.
Cardiovascular,
so they don't have to worry about lean muscle. They've already got that, a really lean muscle. They don't have to worry about weight. But they need to do things like strength training, things that are slower, to support their nervous system, but to slow things down, give their body a chance to actually build muscle.
Yes.
Build muscle.
Otherwise, as they get older, they'll be very fragile.
That's right.
Thyroid women can be very fragile as they get older if they've got low bone density, not much muscle, and not enough fat.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. So we don't want to be a little old lady. We want to be a strong old lady. Well, I hope you've been able to recognise your body type. I don't want you to have an identity crisis. Now, you can also go to a website and do an interactive questionnaire, and it will tell you what body type you are, what predominant body type you are. It's really interesting, it's really fun, and it's free. So go to weightcontroldoctor.com. That was weightcontroldoctor.com, and do the interactive questionnaire on body types. Now, Vicky and I are going to talk about the best snacks for each body type, because we know that, in between meals when your blood sugar drops and you've got to grab something to eat, they're the danger times. So if you can be prepared and carry the snacks with you,
That's it.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. to be prepared. Doesn't take a long time to prepare at night. Just have your little picnic basket with the right snacks for you. So the permissible snacks for an android type, Vicky.
That, you know, your android type's going to, your protein, once again, always going to come back to your protein, balancing your fat and your carbs. So cheeses, plain yogurt, high protein, so nuts and seeds, even raw veggies, you know, things like hummus. Hummus is great. That's your chickpea dip.
Yeah.
That's really quite high protein.
Yes.
And it's nice with, you know, carrot sticks, celery sticks. And then you can actually go for avocado. Avocado's your good fat.
Yes.
And you, once again,
and it will take away that hunger.
It will, and it tastes good. And of course, for a really good snack, maybe even a can of sardines. You know, you keep a salmon in your bag, and that's a quick snack, and it's done.
I agree, yeah. And seeds are so good. They're high in fibre, and you know, they have an anti-cancer effect. And tahini and hummus, high in the good fats, and put some vegetable sticks in there because, you know, the vegetables are so good for your liver. And androids tend to develop a fatty liver. Androids often have a fatty liver if they eat too much carbohydrate because they're genetically prone to insulin resistance. And, you know, it's very interesting, the field of nutrigenomics, how the foods we eat influence our genes. They directly impact on our genes. And we said our body type is inherited. So there's certain foods that can turn off the bad genes and turn on the good genes.
Yes.
That's nutrigenomics. So this is what these snacks will do.
Yes, it's right.
So it's very scientific, guys. Snacking, very scientific. Now, for the G type, we said before that they're estrogen dominant.
They are.
Yeah, and they got all this fat around their butt, which is producing estrogen. Their ovaries overproduce estrogen. So we need to help their liver break down the estrogen. So, Vicky, would you illuminate us on the best foods to snack on?
For your gynaeoid, we still need to look at your protein foods, but I probably would steer away a little bit from dairy. That wouldn't be my first choice as far as a snack, so that's the point of difference between the android and the gynaeoid.
Yeah.
But things like your little broccoli florets, cauliflower, once again your celery, your carrot sticks, and of course you can still do tahini, still do hummus, and of course avocado, even make guacamole dip. That is just excellent. And always nuts and seeds. You can't go past that. And that will just help the balance of your protein and your fat at each in between those meals. And especially for the gynaeoid, because they'll get that sweet craving. So if they can get that protein in, especially the early part of the day, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, protein the early part of the day. And also a good snack is some whole ground flax seeds in some plain full fat Greek yogurt. So that's helping your gut, and the good bacteria will break down the bad estrogens. And the flax seeds got phytoestrogens which switch off the estrogen dominance. So ground flax seeds in yogurt, delish. And you can always put some fresh fruit in it, like berries or passion fruit, which are really good fruits for weight loss.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now, what about the naughty T type, who's always craving stimulants? You know, give me a cigarette, give me a coffee, give me sugar.
That's it.
What are they going to have to snack on?
And it's going to come back, sound boring, but it's coming back to your protein and fat. But okay, let's try and think of something a bit different. Your beans, your nuts, your seeds, cheese, yogurt.
Yeah.
So these things take a little bit slower to metabolize. They're great. They can, if they're not gluten intolerant, they can go for the whole grain crackers, toast even, with avocado on it, yum, with the balsamic vinegar over the top, very nice.
Yes.
Honey tahini. Fruit's not too bad for your thyroid type, and but I always have a bit of nuts or seeds to go with the fruit or some yogurt.
Yeah, yeah, they can have more carbohydrate, they can have the fruits, but as Vicky said, put some cheese with it or put some nuts with it, because your problem's going to be your blood sugar. So to stabilise your blood sugar, when you have sugar as a snack, have protein with it, and try and stick to the fruit rather than the lollies and the candies. And you can have whole grains and toast, crackers and things like that. As I say, the thyroid's, you know, you got to work at putting on weight, girls.
It's good weight. We want good quality weight.
Now, the opposite to the thyroid type is the lymphatic. The one with the sluggish metabolism has to be very careful what she snacks on.
She does. But, you know, things like your nori toasted, once again, your canned fish is good.
Yes.
Your seaweed, so like, you know, your dulse and things like that is good to sort of even put in as salads, but have them as a snack.
You know, I like nori toasted.
Oh,
you tried that? You toast nori,
okay.
and you can have it with some nuts, and it's just a real nice salty, savoury flavour, Nori.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll have that.
Yeah. You can have it with cheese too.
Okay.
Oh no, lymphatics can't have cheese.
No.
Of course.
Oh.
No dairy
No
products,
cheese.
girls, if you're a lymphatic. Yeah.
But things like your snacks on your capsicum, celery, parsley, cucumber, and once again, your good favourites like tahini, guacamole, avocado, and your hummus. They're all good. And juices are a good snack to have in between your meals. So you can make up a ginger juice, celery, cucumber, carrot, and freeze it. Make it up in the morning and keep it cold, or put it in the freezer and have it in the afternoon.
Yeah, have a couple of hard-boiled eggs, or make yourself some curried eggs. We said that spices are good for lymphatic, so you can take 2 eggs, mix it with some curry powder, or cumin is a good herb for your liver, and you can have 1 egg or 4 eggs. It's not going to put any weight on. That's what people don't understand. No. Protein has very little effect on your weight.
But a great effect on balancing your blood sugar, which is great.
And your body can use protein for energy without needing insulin. Yes. That's the key. You've got to keep your insulin low. So a really good snack would be curried eggs, wouldn't it?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Or salmon. And so you might think, wow, for a snack I'm going to have all that protein. Remember, it won't put on weight, so you can have it.
And we're not talking about huge quantities, we're just talking about a snack.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever it takes to give you satisfaction.
That's right.
And to feel full.
And this will really help the lymphatic system work more efficiently. So you're getting to the really core of that textual type.
Yes. Now, for more information, if you'd like to know more about the 4 body types, android, which is the apple shape, gynoid, which is the pear shape, thyroid, which is the long skinny one, and lymphatic, which is the cuddly baby doll, you can read this book, The Body Shaping Diet. It goes into great depth about the different foods that suit you and the different hormonal characteristics and metabolic characteristics of each body type. So it's been great having you talking with me today, Vicky, about the body shapes, because people love to know their body shape.
It is good fun, and it just helps, I think, like we talked about the weight loss detective, it's another piece in our puzzle to understand how we are unique and appreciate.
Yeah, that's right. Make the best of what you've got, and look for everything that you can optimise. Make the best of what you are, and don't become unhappy about a certain part of your body that you're not happy with. Improve it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. We're very blessed.
Yes, we are. And, to have your input's been great. So I hope you know your body type and that can help you improve your life. Thank you.